USA Ultimate is proud to present the 2013 USA Ultimate National Championships live from Frisco, Texas. This afternoon, from Washington, D.C., it's Scandal taking on Riot out of Seattle here at Frisco ISD Memorial Stadium. A trip to the finals on the line. That's tomorrow, also here in Frisco. And that'll be either against Austin Showdown or San Francisco's Fury. Glad to have you along today. Mike Cousins with Evan Lepler, a former captain of the Wake Forest Ultimate Team. And with this team, you have an East Coast power in Scandal going up against Riot, one of the long-standing best teams in women's Ultimate.
Mike, this has been a game that a lot of people have really looked forward to because in the women's scene for the past 5-10 years, it's been dominated by the Bay Area and the Pacific Northwest, San Francisco Fury and Seattle Riot. Now you have the East Coast team surging into that top tier. Washington Scandal has knocked off Riot during the season. The question is, can they do it on the biggest stage?
Now, the story for Scandal, they're young, but they do have experienced players and great coaching as well. Mike Lepresti and Alex Gesquier in the U.S. Open, a runner-up, big games, and one of their World Games players is Opie Payne. She's a big key for this team.
Alex Gesquier's made a big impact his first year coaching Scandal, and no one makes a bigger impact on the field than Opie Payne. An incredible motor on Payne. She played for the U.S. World Games team that won a gold medal in Colombia, and she is the fuel to this Scandal team. She's got the throws, but more than that, she's got an attitude that makes Scandal competitive.
Now, on the other side, for Seattle Riot, they get their namesake from the famous Riots in Seattle, formed in 2000 in the U.S. Open, upset early, lost in the semifinals, and the player we look at on their side, Sarah Surge Griffith, one of, if not the best defenders in the sport.
It's going to be a great matchup. Octavia Payne against Sarah Griffith, her teammate on the U.S. World Games team. What do her teammates say about her? She is fearless and insanely athletic, and she plays the game with a confidence and a mental toughness that you really don't see. That's the type of mental toughness that has gotten Riot to the championship game so many times. Scandal's trying to infringe on their territory.
Washington, D.C., Seattle, first pull next in Frisco. Welcome to the USA Ultimate National Championships, the third and final leg of the Triple Crown Tour, Ultimate's highest level of competition. Everyone's invited. The USA Ultimate National Championships are presented by the Discraft UltraStar 175 Sport Disc, the official championship disc of USA Ultimate since 1991. USA Ultimate, the national governing body for the sport of Ultimate in the United States. To find out more about the sport of Ultimate or where to play in your community, visit www.usaultimate.org. There is a peek inside the State Fair here in Texas, and let's take a look at our starting lineups. First, for Scandal out of Washington, D.C., and it's Unfried, McClellan, White, and Roy as their cutters, Ratcliffe, Johnston, and Mercier as their handlers.
This looks like the defensive line for Scandal. Mercier, a new addition this year for the team from D.C.
Now for Seattle, Griffith, Cardenas, Kawhi, and Lawson. Gwen Ambler is certainly a player to keep our eyes on the handler line.
Yeah, Gwen Ambler, a former U.S. World Games competitor, has played for Fury, won a few championships for the San Francisco team, now trying to lead the Seattle team to a first title in the new decade.
Here's what you need to know if you're new to the sport of Ultimate. Certainly glad to have those veterans along. There are a lot of unique elements to Ultimate, but it also incorporates parts of other sports as well.
7-on-7, the disc can move in any direction. The player with the disc sets a pivot foot as soon as she catches it. 10 seconds to release. Game to 15, halftime at 8. And this is going to be a fantastic matchup, Mike. Two teams that know each other very well. They met in the finale at the Pro Flight finale. Riot won that game 13-10, but Scandal defeated Riot earlier this season. Octavia Payne had the opening pull for D.C. Riot in the red and Scandal in the white. Riot representing the home team, is the higher seed, and Payne with a D, and there's a call immediately. This is the matchup we talked about right off the bat. Griffith, number 6, and Payne, number 9. They formed a bond in Columbia. U.S. World Games teams going 36-0 in competition this summer, both at the highest level and at the U23 level. Those two girls, big reasons why.
And it makes for interesting competition when there's an unforced turn for Riot, so it goes back to scandal. You've got players who played together over the course of the summer, making that trip down to Columbia, and now have more respect for one another when they get out on the field on opposing teams.
And it doesn't mean they don't want to beat each other just as bad. You know, when LeBron James and Kevin Durant play in the Olympics, they still want to kick each other's butts when the Thunder play the Heat.
Puck hangs up and it's teed away. Riot there to deny the first chance at a score for Scandal.
An excellent D there by Khalees Cardenas. And Sandy Jurgensen, one of the toughest matchups in Ultimate. Cardenas was behind a step, but did a nice job attacking that disc in the air. Jurgensen and Payne have an unspoken connection. Both national team caliber players, and we'll try to see that combination a lot. And a Callahan for Scandal.
Allison Maddox swoops in off the throw from Gwen Ambler, and it's 1-0 Scandal.
An unexpected way for this game to start. And the handler for Riot just didn't attack the disc. And Maddox looked like she's been there before.
Well, it's interesting to see the wind blowing across the field, and Callahan essentially a safety like you would get in football. Very rare to see at this high level.
And you don't see it very often. A defensive score counts as a legit goal, and what a play for the DC team to begin the game. Allison Maddox grew up on the West Coast, played collegiately at UCSB Santa Barbara. Now a key member of the D-line for Scandal. You see the couple coaches for Scandal, Mike Lepresti in the hoodie, jogging off the field. And, you know, Alex Gesquier, a year ago at this time, was coaching Revolver on the men's side, a team that he played for and won championship with. He was in the finals with Revolver last year, but moved to the East Coast for work and for family reasons, and he has been a huge difference maker for this Scandal team. The head coach of the U.S. World Games team, now at the helm of Scandal, and he made an interesting comment by saying, you know, he hasn't tried to redefine their strategy. He's tried to help them with the things that they already do, just to do them a little bit better and try to match a team like Riot.
And on the Riot side, their head coach, Ben Wiggins, came in and was essentially doing the same thing. Another turn for Riot. Pulled downfield, looking for Jorgensen. She uses her body well to make the grab. And all of a sudden, it is 2-0 Scandal as Jorgensen goes to Sarah Ito. My, oh my, what a statement to start here for Scandal.
A Callahan at one end, and then a very easy score on the other. That's why Jurgensen's such a obvious target. 5'9", but very long arms, and great body control. Not the greatest thrower, but certainly a very adequate thrower. And, you know, Ben Wiggins, Mike Lawler, Andy Loveseth, and the rest of the Seattle Riot team talking it over now, because that was not great transition defense there from Riot, not at all.
Now Ito found herself wide open there.
As good of a start as Scandal could have hoped for. Jenny Fay with a nice backhand. One of the underrated players on this Washington, D.C. team. And to the end zone.
Not only does Jorgensen have great size, but she's also one of the fastest players in the women's game, which makes her such an almost impossible to guard combination because of her height and her speed. helping to lead Washington to a 3-0 mark in pool play, cruising past Phoenix 15-10, and then taking down the Canadian team Capitals in the quarterfinals.
That 3-0 road, as we look at Alex Gesquier and now Opie Payne, not the easiest 3-0 road. They were down to Molly Brown in their first game, sort of a wake-up call. It was 9-5. The Denver team, Molly Brown, was up on Scandal. Would have been the biggest storyline on Thursday in the women's division, but Scandal, with a great comeback, was able to set the tone in game 1 and has not lost since.
We were standing on the sideline of that Molly Brown Scandal game, and there was a great comment made about the Molly Brown team. Young, fast, they're not afraid to throw it deep, but it's the determination and the discipline that Washington, D.C. has that allows them to come back and win a game like that.
And we were talking about, Sandy Jurgensen. She's so smooth. She's so fast. She was a varsity track and field athlete at Wisconsin while she was playing ultimate on the club scene as well. Sandy Jurgensen also was a member of the Finnish national team that won a title in 2011.
Riot 2 turns early and 2 scores on 2 breaks for Washington, D.C. And tight man-to-man defense for Scandal.
Really important point here for Seattle.
Another turn.
That's nerves.
Jurgensen right at midfield.
That was Nora Carr, just slipped right through her fingers. That's a tough, low release lefty flick, and another.
Jurgensen hangs it up in the end zone, and it's D'd away.
Nora Carr gave it away at one end, but gets her vengeance, just deflecting it away from White. Both players there 5'7". Carr did a nice job reading the disc.
Now Seattle's got it being forced away. Up the sideline, turn number 4. That pass intended for Heidi Marie Wiggins, the wife of head coach Ben Wiggins.
Ben Wiggins is probably wondering what's going on, because this Riot team has been here before. In fact, they've been in the semifinals basically every year at Nationals for a long time, and all of a sudden they're down 3-0 in the semis.
Alicia White to Sandy Jurgensen. This has been coming out and putting the pedal to the metal for Washington, D.C.
They already used one timeout. Don't want to burn another right away.
It really looked like that pass was intended for Lauren Sadler, and it went over her head.
Well, Jurgensen knows that whenever she's near a dish, she can make a play on it. And a nice throw from White. Really been impressed with how calm and collected this Scandal team has been. And the reaction after Allison Maddox had the Callahan. Usually that's a play that will fire everybody up, and you might have to worry about containing your emotions a little bit, but she just made it look like another casual grab.
So 4 unforced turns right now for Seattle, and Opie Payne gets set to pull once again. It's the same semifinal matchup as the U.S. Open. Riot has a 3-1 mark against Scandal this year, but in the semis at the U.S. Open, that loss was a 13-7 final score.
These two teams met in the semifinals at Nationals last year too. Octavia Payne, Alex Gesquier says that her willpower to win usually exceeds that of the opponent. You can sort of see it in her eyes. Very focused, very intense. She has the athleticism to match it. It's a spread isolation offense here for Riot. Trying to create space in the middle of the field and use some handler cuts. Wasn't there, but a nice underneath cut. And another. Payne guarding Griffith.
perhaps the best defensive matchup we'll see here this Saturday in Frisco. Angelica Borden on the doorstep. And Seattle on the score, gets on the board. Hannah Kawhi with the catch, and that's exactly what Seattle needed to get back into it at 3-1.
Kawhi with a big smile on her face after she hauls in the first Riot score. Former Brute Squad contributor and played her collegiate disc at Brown. Kawhi certainly an effective defender for this Riot team, but making an impact on the offensive end as well. Nice patient end zone offense from Seattle. You know, the dominance from this Riot team over the course of many, many years, except against everybody except San Francisco, is pretty stunning. You know, Seattle has never lost on the first day at the club championships. They've never lost a pool play game on that pool play Thursday, which is incredible when you think about how the women's game has become more balanced. You know, below that top tier, it's become more balanced. But Seattle undefeated through pool play again. They weren't really tested. Their closest game was against Nemesis of Chicago in the quarterfinals. But Riot had a very solid offense, didn't really get broken against Chicago. Both these teams had fairly tough quarterfinal games, as we see the zone defense here from Seattle going with a 3-person cup as opposed to the 4-person cup we saw. Now they shift back into man defense. They went in the zone the first 5 or 6 throws and then shifted back into man, but sometimes that change in defense can create some confusion, and as we see a turnover.
That's exactly what you want. Kirsten Unfried was looking for Anne Mercier. Wow. Bringing that cup to try and get quick throws or difficult throws. Riot gives it back with their 5th turn of the game. And in the end zone, catch is made. It is a scandal score. Washington, D.C.'s Kirsten Unfried connects. It's 4-1.
Scandal was down in its quarterfinal. The team from the nation's capital trailed Capitals from Toronto, but when the time got to the most important points of the game, they rallied. And a great start here in the semis as Unfried hauls it in.
Thought it was a good message from Alex Gesquier, one of the coaches for Scandal, who said the way that he was framing this matchup here was as an underdog team looking to take down a Goliath. You look at the seeds, it's a number 3 for Washington, D.C. versus a number 2 for Seattle. So the numbers don't necessarily say that, but that's the attitude that Washington has taken into this game.
Well, and Alex Gesquier has seen everything that he could possibly see in Ultimate. Was asking him what his offensive preference is, you know, because he's run vertical, he's run horizontal stack, he's run split stack, he's dealt with different zone defenses, and that was when he said, you know, we didn't really try to redefine what Scandal has done this year. We mix it up a little bit, but what they do, we just try to enhance it, make it a little better, make it a little tighter. Obviously a great start to this game as Payne pulls. Ben Wiggins in his first year coaching Seattle. Mike Lawler has been an assistant coach, a consultant for Seattle for a long time.
Jorgensen swoops in. She's been all over the place. A couple of assists and a D, gives it back to Washington.
Silly closing speed. Mike Lawler is sort of the video technician for the Seattle team. He has edited and cut through over hundreds of hours of video to try to help the Seattle team learn more and more. Actually lives in the Northeast, but communicates with Seattle on almost a daily basis, goes to tournaments, shows up for the occasional practice, and obviously on the sidelines here in Frisco. but the time for teaching is not really in the semifinals. You want to be clicking on all cylinders, and so far the team in that category is the team from the East Coast.
Payne to Jurgensen, and Opie gets it right back. Foot in. Long Huck looking downfield. This would be a score. Oh, what a sky. Incredible throw and an even better catch from Sarah Ito.
Her second score of the first half. We joined just after Octavia Payne's great catch near the sideline, and then she just put it to space. Looked like Dominique Fontenette was going to close in time, but it was Ito who reacted to the disc in the air. Ito with a sensational catch, but the way Opie Payne got her foot inside the boundary on the sideline, set the pivot foot, and then just unleashed a majestic backhand at the highest point. That's exactly what you want to do. That's something you can practice with just one other person. Go out, get a disc, put it up in the air, and work on trying to jump and get it at the apex. It's fun, it's productive, and eventually it might take you to the semifinals at the national championships.
Right now, you would not guess that Washington, D.C. came into this game as the underdog, jumping out to a 5-1 advantage.
And Riot does not look like itself. Not at all. Of course, Riot has had to deal with some injuries. Two of their captains, actually, Alyssa Weatherford and Rory Titcomb, two excellent players, both out with ACL injuries. Rory Titcomb injured at the World Games tryouts. He would have been likely a key competitor on the U.S. World Games team, but both Titcomb and Weatherford relegated to captain/coaching roles from the sidelines.
Titcomb about 3 weeks post-surgery. But she said to us, whenever we focus on ourselves, that's when we'll have a great game. Right now, they've got to focus on catching the disc.
Rory Titcomb from a huge Ultimate family. We'll see two of her brothers playing for Seattle Sockeye, the men's team from Seattle later today. Here's a decent deep shot. Will it float enough? Yes.
That's Rachel Bradshaw. Serge Griffith.
Nice solid backhand throw from Griffith and Bradshaw. Graduate student at University of Washington after her undergraduate career at University of Chicago. And a solid deep threat. This Riot team defeated Scandal in the Pro Flight finale. Seattle actually dropped a game at their regional tournament, falling to Vancouver's traffic double game point on Saturday, a loss that Seattle ended up avenging by a score of 15-7 on Sunday. Here at the USA Ultimate National Championships in Frisco for the first time in quite a while. The last 13 years have been in the Sunshine State of Sarasota, Florida.
And a lot of players, what they'll do, we know Riot has done, is rent a house here for the duration of the stay during their time in Texas. Talking with Mike Lawler, one of the coaches for Seattle, saying hopefully after last night's action, the team could get together and have a film session. Probably a lot easier to cram everybody into a house than a hotel room.
It happens in hotel rooms too, though. That's one of the interesting things in the evolution of Ultimate this year has been the proliferation of more and more video and more video scouting and game plans and hand blocks.
Aggressive D from Molly McKeon. Bouncing up and down. I was able to draw the block.
But a bunch of coaches have talked about how video has really changed the way they plan for games, plan for tournaments, and scouting reports are becoming more and more in-depth They go into a game with thoughts about who's going to match up with who. There's a call here.
Foul called on the throw by Shannon O'Malley. No contest, it'll stay. Coming in at 0.
Seattle has been in the semifinals at Nationals every year since 2001. It's a really incredible streak. But only 2 national titles and none in the last 7 years because San Francisco's Fury, the 7-time defending national champ.
So it would have been 2. She said 2, so it'll become installing 3.
Okay, coming out, 3 guys.
The 2 number 11s, O'Malley and Unfried.
Last championship for Seattle was in 2005. Deed away in the end zone, disc back to Washington, D.C., and also the year before that for Seattle, a crown in 2004.
We've had 6 second-place finishes in the last 10 years, too. Stall count was rising. That was a desperation attempt to the back of the end zone.
And with this women's bracket, the 2 teams that are not the traditional powerhouses in the semifinals, you have Scandal from Washington, D.C., Showdown from Austin. There's a turn. They're trying to change the conversation away from Fury, Riot, Riot, Fury.
Yeah, Austin and D.C., both in their second straight semifinal at the national championships is another call. The foul may negate the hand block. The San Francisco-Austin semifinal is going to be very interesting, too, because, Showdown, the only non-top seed to win its pool in the women's division. Looked pretty clean from here. Anne Mercier, Canadian background, played for Capitals for many years. When she was in college, was one of the top vote getters for the Callahan Award, which is the Heisman Trophy of Ultimate.
Okay, ladies, so you can send it, just contest and send it back? Or you want to send it to me? Okay, foul was called, it's coming to the observer. It was a foul, you were set up too close to the foul. And the crowd does not agree.
It's good to know everybody's human. And so it's a turn anyway. Seattle gives it back to Washington, D.C. with a 5-2 advantage here in the first half.
And many in the crowd might be screaming, "Disc don't lie" right now after a first throw turnover.
Mercier, as you mentioned, gets it in there on the restart. One of the important additions to Scandal, formerly of Capitals, but also an incredible handler who has great deep hucking skills.
Yeah, she's from Ottawa, and her addition to their offensive line and frankly their defensive line as well has just changed the dynamic. It's taken some of the pressure off Octavia Payne and Sandy Jurgensen. Have another world-class player mixed in with all the very solid worker bees.
Mercier and Ratcliffe dishing around. It's Mercier with the huck. Just a little bit too long.
Yeah, she wanted it. Samantha McClellan the target. And McClellan didn't realize the huck was coming until it was too late. Pretty aggressive man-to-man defense for Scandal, poaching away nearly a D, but now trying to recover.
Kath Ratcliffe back on the D, does recover, forcing away, and the upline throw right to midfield for Seattle into the hands of Katie Crayley. Nearly another turn. A disc saved by Kelly Ma. Where's the call here?
Let's take a look. There's the diving catch by Ma. That looked like an excellent defensive play from Unfried.
So it's a foul here. No contest.
That's very surprising.
Maybe from the other angle, she got her on the side. That's what it must be.
Certainly did look perfectly clean from what we were able to see. Nevertheless, Hannah Kawhi gets it back in for Seattle, trying to score down 5-2. Looking deep, end zone, Shannon O'Malley. There is a call back at the point of the throw. This is an important possession for Seattle, which went down 3-0.
A stall was called and not contested. So that negates the O'Malley score. DC disc. Player has 10 seconds to get rid of the disc. That count initiated and continued by the marker.
Kawhi takes it away. A sloppy point here as Seattle turns it over once again. This point's either going to end with Washington, D.C. on top 6-2 or Seattle back to within 2. And now a timeout taken by Washington, D.C. Well, Evan, we know we've got a lot of friends of Ultimate with us who have played, who have watched tons of Ultimate. But if you're new to the game, what are some important terms that you should know if you're going to be with us over the course of the next 2 days?
Well, you have the two throws, the backhand, and what's commonly known as the flick, a forehand throw. One of the great things about Ultimate, the layouts that you see numerous times, every point. Basically, the defense will set a force, and when the force is set, the offense oftentimes tries to break that force by going to the weak side of the field. We've heard he's seen a couple greatest today, and first point of this game was a Callahan. When the defense intercepts in the end zone, it's attacking for a rare goal. Callahan named after Henry Callahan, one of the great Ultimate players in the 70s and 80s, and in his namesake, the College National Player of the Year awarded.
And we have some Ultimate legends here in Frisco this weekend.
Well, it's funny, we were chatting with one of the Hall of Famers, Suzanne Fields, and she was talking about this past year's Callahan winner in the women's division, Claire Chastain, and her comment was, I just know that 15, 20 years from now, she's going to be a Hall of Famer. She's that amazing. It's a really cool perspective to have from someone who's in the Hall of Fame. It's like chatting with Sandy Koufax and hearing, yeah, Clayton Kershaw is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day.
That's a turn back to Seattle in the end zone. Oh, it was fun to talk with the Suzanne Fields Thursday night to hear about how she ended up playing Ultimate. And when she started playing, it was before they kept score. They rated the games on how fun they were on a scale of 1 to 100.
And it usually was 98, 99, or 100. Sport has come a long way. No question about that.
And she was a big part of it, helping to advance the women's side of the game, immeasurably so.
And I think everyone will acknowledge there's still a long way to go, but you know, Ultimate recognized by the International Olympic Committee as a sport for possible inclusion in the Olympics down the road. It's a long-term goal for the national governing body, USA Ultimate.
White to Mercier, and now Unfried right at the edge. Up line throw to Kath Ratcliffe. Score for Washington at 6-2. Scandal in front of Riot.
Ratcliffe gives and goes. Mercier to Unfried, and then Unfried still going up line, leaving the defender in her wake.
That was a picture-perfect possession as well there. Getting closer to the goal line, dump a couple of swings, and then getting it diagonally across the field with great execution.
And this is a basic handler cut from Ratcliffe. She gives, and then she's going up line. looking for a cutter downfield, not there. You still got the upline cut. Nice hustle on the layout try from Callie Ma, but she had no chance with a perfect throw, trailing the offensive player by a couple steps.
And Alika Johnston did a nice job toward the back of the end zone there, slowing down her cut, realizing Ratcliffe was coming in front to open up that space for her and not clog the corner.
Alika Johnston is amazing. She's one of the youngest players in this women's field, just 19 years old. You can see her on the offensive line for Scandal. 19 years old, basically plays every offensive point as a handler. She played high school under Ultimate in Virginia, actually, since her freshman year, and her high school coach was none other than Jenny Fay, who wears number 10 and plays for Scandal. Fay a little bit older, recruiting some of the top high school players in the region, and you know, to be a regular on a team that's in the semifinals at Club Nationals at 19 is incredible.
That throw was turfed, so now a short field for Washington, D.C. This has been a rare, poor half so far from Seattle.
I think it's the worst half I've ever seen them play.
End zone, that hangs, layout try, and it's just a little bit too long for Kimberly Beach. You talk about age differential, age 41 down to age 19.
Both impact players. Beach, 41 years young. Almost had it. That would have been a picture. That was the type of play, if she made that, things would have been going too good for Washington, D.C. You know, back corner of the end zone, no room to spare. Shoestring catch, very close, but, you know, Riot not in sync at all.
Same on the other side. Jesse O'Connor drops the disc.
And back to Riot on the Scandal turn.
When you see a 19-year-old player on a high-level club team, what do you think about that player? Because it's not necessarily as if it's the only occurrence. There are some examples on the men's side as well, but that's somebody you probably think is going to be playing for a long time.
I think that whatever college he or she is attending is very lucky and fortunate, because that program is going to be involved in the Nationals landscape for the duration of their time there. You know, it's funny, a lot of times you see college players move into the club level, and some of the studs at the college level become role players. The very best college players, if they can grow into studs at the club level, it really speaks to the growth of the game and players' abilities to rise to the highest level, because this is the highest level of Ultimate here at the National Championships. An injury substitution.
Kimberly Beach comes out for Washington, D.C., bringing Ann Mercier back in.
Seattle Riot will have entire halves where they'll turn it over 3 or 4 times tops. This is not one of their typical halves. Trying to poach a little bit on the goal line. Switching defenders.
And now with the full length of the field to go, helps to have Mercier in there, not wanting to have the injury timeout taken, but you get your best handler back on the field.
Great awareness by Scandal there offensively. A tricky defense on the handler, so a cutter came back and handled. The handler raced deep, and it really forced Riot to change the defensive game plan. Was that hand block clean?
Clean hand block from Gwen Ambler.
Gwen Ambler has had such a prestigious career. Long left arm, gets it down low. Able to knock it down. You know, Gwen Ambler won 3 straight national titles with San Francisco Fury. A good chunk of that time she was living in Seattle, and her roommate was the captain of the Seattle Riot squad. So they would play each other in national championship games and then go back home to Seattle and be roommates and friends. A crazy dynamic. Eventually, Gwen Ambler decided that she had enough rapport with the Seattle team and the travel would be a little bit easier to practice with Seattle Riot.
Off the turn, Seattle to score. Katie Crayley. But a call back at about 25 yards away.
Ambler will retake the disc, presumably. And they're going to flip it to Fontenette.
You have a contested foul call.
Ultimate has taken Gwen Ambler all around the world. She's traveled to Finland, the Czech Republic, Taiwan, Japan, Thailand, Kenya.
Contested stall.
All for Ultimate as one of the standard bearers for the sport for a long time. Played at Stanford.
Got her start there in 1999.
And transitioned to Fury and now with Riot. Oof.
So after a contested stall, Riot with its second straight turn in the end zone. Washington, D.C. gives it right back and a D. Wow. Allison Maddox not giving up on the play when it could have been very easy to do so. And they give it right back. So far, this does not look like a matchup of a 3 seed versus a 2 seed.
3 straight throws hit the turf before that completion.
And that's what Seattle wanted. Angelica Boyden has it. Her second season with the team. One of the captains, Rory Titcomb, says she has been dominant this year for Seattle.
That's a big score on a long marathon point.
Katie Crayley finds Angelica Boyden in the end zone for the Riot score. That's Riot 3, Scandal 6.
Uncharacteristic play from both sides. 30 turnovers in this game. We've not yet reached halftime. What do you think might be going on here?
Just neither team's playing its best game, particularly Seattle Riot. You know, we're seeing careless, casual mistakes. On the back-to-back turns on the goal line there, when Allison Maddox threw it away and then immediately took it right back, yeah, you could give Maddox credit for the D, but it was the throw, quickly hurried, that, you know, basically put Maddox in a position. That's Michael Lawler. He started playing Ultimate in the mid-'80s in Omaha. Coached Brute Squad for a few years, the Boston women's team. So told me that last year he put together between 300 and 400 3 to 5 minute videos to help Riot learn about themselves and their opponents.
Here's a 3-person cup again from Seattle, trying to force those over-the-top throws. Beautiful backhand from Mercier to split the cup.
There's not much wind right now, so if Scandal can space the field properly, they'll have room for an over-the-top throw like this.
And whoever's been inside that cup has taken plenty of time evaluating her options.
And one of the keys to beating a cup, you need active handlers, and Scandal never really found its rhythm that time.
Kath Ratcliffe thought Mercier would be there to get the hammer. It falls to nobody 25 yards away, just behind the brick mark.
And you can give some credit to the defense. The 3 defenders in the cup were exceedingly active there, jumping up and down, waving their arms, and yet another turnover from Riot.
Well, Ratcliffe makes up for it. She had the turn on the hammer to nobody, gets a hand block, and now here comes Washington, D.C. trying for its 7th goal. It's been very aggressive marking from Seattle. Despite their proclivity for turnovers this afternoon, the defense has been strong.
Straight stack in the end zone, wide open, open side cut.
Mercier, Ratcliffe unfreed. 7-3, Washington leads Seattle in the first half.
This is perfect timing. Mercier to Rathcliffe, as you said, and an open side cut.
Evan, I'm forced to wonder after that point why Seattle would abandon the cup that had just worked so well before the previous turn.
And the reason for that is on a turnover, it's tough to set that cup and be able to situate it to prevent the quick throws. You know, that was a hand block. Most of the defenders were far down the field. On a turnover near the end zone, it's easier to reset that zone defense, but basically you don't have a choice. You got to play man when you turn it over in midfield like that.
Coming up later today on ESPN3, more Ultimate action, as this time we'll have the men's first semifinal for you live, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central. So make sure to join us for more Ultimate right here on ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN app as Seattle takes on Boston.
Seattle Sockeye versus Boston Ironside. Two teams with championship pedigrees. Seattle back in the semifinals after losing in the quarters last year. Very talented, legendary squad. And then Boston Ironside, the semifinalists last year, able to knock off the defending champion double-wide squad from Austin in pool play. You know, both men's semis are fascinating to look at because both teams are littered with talent, but also the style should be conducive to some pretty exciting Ultimate.
Out of the cup, Jurgensen hangs deep. She gets the D, exactly what Washington, D.C. wanted.
Jurgensen took a lick from Khalees Cardenas in her back, but fortunately she popped right back up. Ouch.
Bit of a desperation flick there. Payne along the handling line with Bugler and O'Connor. Over the middle, it's Jurgensen in the end zone as Washington tries to take half. And Sandy Jurgensen, the World Games player, comes through with the answer for the team from D.C.
In our open, we said if Scandal plays its best, it can beat the Seattle Riot. And that was the best half of the tournament for Washington, D.C. 8-3 at the half, and nobody was more important than number 37. With a huge smile on her face, Sandy Jurgensen has Washington, D.C. 7 points away from a trip to the championship game.
And for Seattle, that first half you'd think is going to be marked by surprise and a little bit of disappointment.
Disappointment is probably putting it mildly. Seattle Riot is probably angry right now, maybe even furious with how they played that half of Ultimate. Just a disappointing performance from the Seattle Riot team that really, at times on Thursday and Friday, looked as good as anybody. But Riot will talk it over at halftime.
Well, in the lead right now is Scandal from Washington, D.C. One of their coaches, Alex Gisquier, joins us on the sideline. Alex, you come into this technically as the underdog, a 3 seed versus a 2 seed. When was the last time that your team put together a half that dominant?
It was always in there, but yeah, so far this tournament, all the pieces haven't come together like they have just now. We've been building towards this the whole way, though, with all the tests we've been through, with a tough quarterfinal and a tough wake-up call in pool play. The team has really put their act together.
Sandy Jurgensen obviously made a huge impact both offensively and defensively. What's it like to have a player like her in the end zone?
It's such a fantastic advantage for us, not just because she can win battles like those, but she can also draw the attention of the defense deep with her, and we can open up a lot of space underneath. So it's two options that it gives us. We love both of them.
Alex, what did it do for your team to start with a Callahan?
I think that set the tone perfectly. That was what the whole team had been building towards as we were warming up, and it really let us explode coming out of the game.
Alex Gisquier, thanks so much.
Thanks very much.
Alex Gesquier, Mike Lepresti, the coaching staff of Washington, D.C. Scandal out in front 8-3 as they take half over Seattle's Riot. We'll come back, take a look at the first half highlights in a moment from Frisco. Back in Frisco, Texas, at half, it's Washington 8 and Seattle 3 as Scandal leads Riot. And Scandal jumped out to a 3-0 lead, getting started with a Callahan, and has carried that momentum to take half. Mike Cousins and Evan Lepler, thanks for joining us here on a beautiful Texas Saturday. Now, coming into this, it was Scandal trying to build itself up against Riot, the East Coast versus the West Coast team, and Scandal has taken control of things here in the first half.
It's really shocking in a way, but it's reminiscent of something that has happened before. The semifinals of the U.S. Open in Raleigh. A lot of people thought that would be Fury and Riot in the finals, but Scandal ruined the party, and they're halfway to doing it again.
Fury then went on to beat Showdown. They're the other women's semifinal. Scoring in this game, all Scandal. They came out, put the pedal to the floor, and really made a statement against Seattle.
Well, it started with the Callahan. Allison Maddox, the pass a little floaty from Ambler. Maddox came in, took charge. Then Octavia Payne helped to trigger the offense. The deep shot over the head of one Washington, D.C. player, but as usual, Sandy Jurgensen there with a smile on her face, doing it on both sides of the disc. That was a huge play in the half, right near the sideline. Octavia Payne showing the athleticism and then showing the skill, shooting it deep, and a nice catch over the top by Sarah Ito. Not too many highlights for Seattle Riot in the half, but that lone score helped to get them within 5 at the break, but still very, frankly, I'm shocked. I really expected Seattle to play one of its best games here in the semifinals. There's still time. I think the biggest question for the second half, quite frankly, is how will Scandal respond to Seattle Riot's inevitable run that's going to happen at some point?
Well, we'll see what they can do, and we'll check in with their head coach, Ben Wiggins, when we come back. 8-3, Washington, D.C. surprisingly takes half over Seattle. Back to Frisco, Evan Lepler, Mike Cousins, and Washington with an 8-3 lead over Seattle. Down on the sideline, one of the captains of this Riot team, Rory Titcomb. And take me through your thoughts from the first half.
Scandal's been playing a great game. They've made a lot of big plays in the air, in the backfield, but we just had a great talk about really being aggressive, fighting back from their aggression with confidence, trusting our teammates, and I think it's going to be a really different second half.
Rory, how do you think your team will respond from sort of a shocking first half?
We're ready for any challenge that comes our way. We're a team that really relies on trusting and loving each other, and knowing that our excellence on the field comes from those two values, and I think that's what we're going to see happen in the second half.
How do you cut down the turns?
Focus. We got a little jitters out. It's a little windy. Things are popping. It's always a little funky in the stadium, and, we're going to let it go. It's behind us now. We're done with it. And moving forward, we're just going to be focusing on catching that disc all the way into our hands and seeing each other in the backfield.
Rory, thanks. Good luck.
Thank you.
One of the captains of Seattle Riot, Rory Titcomb, will start the second half in a moment. Our first half scoring summary, it's Washington leading Seattle 8-3 as the number 3 seed leads the number 2 seed. Well-balanced scoring, 3 different players with 2 goals in the first half for Washington, including a very impressive Callahan to start the scoring from Scandal's Allison Maddox.
That Callahan set the tone, and the question is, can Scandal keep up that energy and emotion for 7 more points and a berth in the finals?
So we see man-to-man defense here to start things off for Seattle. And in talking to Rory Titcomb, she was very optimistic about chances for a comeback here for Seattle in the second half.
Well, you have to believe. You have to know that your team has it in them. And Seattle Riot certainly can overcome a 5-point deficit. They could win this half by 6 or 7. Scandal. I thought Alex Gesquier's sort of demeanor said it all. I knew we had that in us, but that was what I've been looking for all year long. Came at the right time.
Upline to Mercier, her feet are in. And as the first half started, so does the second with a quick strike from Washington, D.C.
Mercier, a difference maker in her first year with the DC team, coming south of the border. And nice footwork there, right near the sideline of the end zone.
Watching that back, perhaps she had more momentum carrying that way than it initially appeared, because it looked like she would catch up to that pretty easily, but as she fell down and did a barrel roll, she was really carrying through there on that throw-up line.
Just a crafty handler cut from a smart player. Usually she's the one distributing the disc. Led the team in assists during the first 2 days of the tournament. Just a nice floaty upfield throw. Had time to see where her feet would be, and 9-3. Quite simply, nobody would have predicted this.
I think a lot of Ultimate office brackets across the country are going to be upset if this score holds.
You wouldn't call Scandal a Cinderella, but upsets are what make tournaments fun.
So here comes Seattle Riot down 9-3. In talking with Alex Gesquier, one of the two coaches for Washington, he said he thinks Riot is better put together than in years past. That's just in and out of the hands of Jurgensen. The huck complete for Seattle, and then it's turfed. Dominique Fontenette, but a call on the contact. No call to go back to Washington.
Hurried the throw just a little bit. Now a deep shot looking for Jurgensen. Who else?
Sandy is there. Opie and Jurgensen connect. Good momentum moving downfield for Washington, D.C. Lauren Sadler with the disc, going end zone, and that's deed away. She wanted Jurgensen for the quick score.
Forced that one just a little bit.
Line with the D for Riot.
When you're down by 6 in the second half and you have the disc on your own goal line, taking the full 70 yards downfield seems like 70 miles.
Khalees Cardenas, the drop out of bounds. So basically back where that last turn took place is where Washington, D.C. picks up. Sarah Ito, the disc on the doorstep. Stall count rising. She looks for Opie. That falls to the ground. Lots of contact there in the end zone.
It's a clean D. Gwen Ambler, the defender, got there first. And the collision just a byproduct of the defense. Try to tell those girls that Ultimate's a non-contact sport.
Watching Opie play, her level of fire and competitiveness, perhaps on the men's or women's side, is nearly unrivaled.
This Washington team energized by her intensity. Back on Thursday, Scandal was down 9-5 in the first game of the tournament. Austin Showdown certainly one of the key surprises here in Frisco.
This is Ambler, who had the hand block, and gets it in for Seattle, about 10 yards ahead of the goal line. Jurgensen, she is everywhere. She gets the D on the pass intended for Kawhi. What closing speed.
Sandy Jurgensen with another D for Scandal. Opie to pick up.
There have been plenty of unforced errors and a lot of turns at one point, 30 combined in the first half. A lot of those from Riot, but Jurgensen has made her name on defense. Opie upline to Maddox.
It's a tough catch by Maddox with Fontenette right next to her. Tough up the line cut.
Jurgensen to Opie to end zone. Knocked away. It was a 2-on-1 trying to find Sarah Ito. But there is a call back about 35 yards out.
Rachel Bradshaw with the D for Riot in the end zone.
Bradshaw had the D. And it will be Riot's disc. Ito almost leapt over her. Now, I'm not sure how you can stop Octavia Payne's up the line cuts.
Who's going to go step for step with her?
Well, Serge Griffith is going to try, and she might be the only one in the sport that has a chance.
Hamler picks up the Riot.
Now Payne's guarding Griffith. Griffith trying to cut. Nicely timeout call. They may try to set up a play for none other than Jurgensen, who's just been the difference maker deep, both offensively and defensively. Great ability to read the disc. Her long arms put her in a position to get it. And then it's the body positioning as well. She's truly the total package.
And she's always in the right spot.
And it seems like she's got magnets in her hands. The statistics, again, don't tell the story of how impactful she's been.
On a long point here, a timeout taken by Washington, D.C. A lot more times we'll see teams burn their timeouts after a long hunk to set up on the goal line for an important score. So a bit of an unusual time to see this timeout taken.
I think just the nature of the point, how long it's drawn on, and the importance of it. Yeah, it's 9-3, but 10-3 just widens the gap and twists the knife a little bit. If Scandal could score here. Kimberly Beach is enjoying herself.
Once again, Opie with the disc for Scandal after that timeout.
So it's Griffith guarding Payne. Great matchup of this weekend. Jurgensen, end zone, skies! Pulls it in and scores. Payne from about 40 yards away finds Jurgensen, and it's 10-3.
Opie with a nice foot to the end zone. Sandy Jurgensen brings
A lot of love to go around in the white and blue.
That's Scandal 10, Riot 3.
You could sense this one coming. Sandy Jurgensen with a defender nearby. Leaps and catches at the apex.
It's a 4-0 Scandal run. Mere inches separated Kawhi from getting a D in front of Jurgensen.
That was an okay throw, but it was Jurgensen who sort of outfoxed the defender near the end zone. And you can see the emotion, as you mentioned, Mike, between Payne and Jurgensen. Teammates through U.S. World Games camp. And for the Washington, D.C. team that has really come together under Mike Lepresti and Alex Guesquier's leadership. And what a story this would be.
Scandal gets set to pull here, leading at 10-3. Hardly wind to speak of. Neither the American flag nor the flag for the state of Texas has any movement down in the end zone. And that's the same direction that Seattle's driving on this possession. No mark yet. Here comes Jurgensen on the disc. McDowell across the middle of the field finds Cardenas. And there's the open pass. Katie Crayley, the 23-year-old for Seattle Riot, brings them back to within 6.
Seattle made that look pretty easy. That's really the first easy score that's Riot has put together. Calm, collective offense, especially near the goal line. Good pivot to the right and back to the left to create space to throw.
Well, you want to stay with us. Our final game tonight is the USA Ultimate Men's Championship second semifinal. Rather, I should say the second semifinal on the men's side. And you can watch that game right here on ESPN3. Also on the Watch ESPN app, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. The men's second semifinal as Denver takes on San Francisco. Johnny Bravo Revolver.
Fascinating semifinal matchups there. Revolver won the title 2 of the last 3 years, but knocked off in the championship game last year. Johnny Bravo is capable of beating Revolver. Johnny Bravo might be the most explosive team of that group with, you know, young studs like some of Colorado Mama Bird players, Jimmy Mickle, Tim Morrissey. You know, Bart Watson was part of the national championship teams for San Francisco previous years. He's now on Denver's squad, and he'll be trying to beat his old buddies. The mixture of those two teams, you know, so many of Revolver's good players are former Johnny Bravo guys, so it's going to be really fascinating.
Anytime we've heard anybody talk about Denver this weekend, it's been Jimmy Mickle is the first name that seems to get brought up, and he's been all over the field. Looking deep again, it's White in the end zone, 2-on-1, and that throws too long.
Well, you see the difference between, you know, Jorgensen and just another player who's human, you know. Jorgensen probably comes down with that disc, but she's getting a rest, up 10-4. What a D.
Mercier, the D, knocks it away with her right hand and creates just an 11-yard separation from Pater.
And a pick call down the field. That was tremendous team defense by Scandal and Mercier, the beneficiary. They were doing all sorts of switches downfield, changing the marks, the last back pickup, and then Mercier, a phenomenal layout.
White dumps back to Mercier. Much more patient possession for Washington, D.C. End zone, this time it's White again. Throw on the mark, and it's money for Washington.
(11-4). If I wasn't seeing it, I'm not sure I'd believe it.
There are surprises, and then there's this game.
Alicia White, very solid contributor. A defensive player who obviously can mix it up on the offensive side of the disc too. Nice little floaty throw to the back corner. It curved back to the receiver. Perfectly done.
I was thrown past the mark of Callie Ma, really only where White could get it.
Riot's had some good comebacks in its day. And of course, the first mixed semifinal was 13-7 and became 15-13 pretty quick. Riot is running out of time.
I feel like we've said this a lot already in this matchup. Here's Octavia Payne to pull for Scandal.
You know, if Scandal does get to the finals, Washington would face either San Francisco Fury or Austin Showdown. Girls from DC have not played against either of those teams in September or October.
Jorgensen with Griffith, and Jorgensen knocks it up in the air. Two elite defenders right there.
Her timing is impeccable. I mean, 1 second jump earlier or later, and that's our Seattle score.
At 5'9", she's one of the taller players that you'll find in the women's game. And that's really hard to decipher from the angle where we're sitting now, 2 stories up. But if you stand field level and you watch Jurgensen run step for step with anybody else, you realize her size. Can't use it there as that disc floats too far and out of bounds.
Scandal turn.
Off the turn, Cardenas puts it in play. Surge downfield with an end zone try, in and out of the hands of her intended receiver.
And it is going to be a goal. A strip in the end zone, uncontested, is a goal. She had it. Great hustle by Maddox. Goodness gracious. But pretty much everybody knew what was coming, and Seattle back within 6. She's going to stop the rotation of the disc before the defender with an unbelievable layout hustle play. But once the possession is stopped, or once the rotation is stopped, Griffith with a nice throw. If the defender touches the disc and knocks it out, that is considered a foul. And an uncontested strip in the end zone is a goal.
So the goal for Catherine Lawson, 11-5 with Seattle down 6. Washington needs 15 to take this and move on to the finals, facing either San Francisco or Austin tomorrow afternoon.
Washington, D.C. Scandal has not faced Fury since the finals of the U.S. Open. That was right after the 4th of July. And that was a great game. 15-12 was the final with San Francisco winning. They faced a few days earlier in U.S. Open pool play with Fury winning 15-11, but that was without Anne Mercier, who joined the team after the U.S. Open. If Washington, D.C. plays as well tomorrow as they've done today, Fury's reign might be over.
Well, if they do go on to win, I think that'll be a question that's fair to ask is, can they repeat this performance tomorrow? Serge Griffith with the D on the Scandal turn, gives it back to Seattle.
Another good D.
Creates a very short field, putting the disc in the hands of Mercier. That's turfed, but a foul call.
A veteran move, pivoting and throwing through the mark. It's almost like a basketball player driving to the basket. You know you're getting the foul call. If the pass is completed, it still counts. And 1. If not, you get the disc back. And what's the call here?
Pick called.
May have been another foul on the thrower. In a lot of ways, this game has reminded me of one of the Open semifinals we saw in Madison at the college championships. You know, when Carleton probably came in as the favorite against the up-and-coming Central Florida team, but the Dogs of War from UCF played its best game of the season. Carleton never really got in sync, and you saw somewhat of a blowout, which was very surprising.
I'm not asking you guys to saying 5, but I'm going to say coming in on 5 because it's 4 plus 1.
Coming in, yeah, so you're saying stay at 4.
Stay at 4.
So it comes in on 5. And what was your question?
I would like to go to the observer. So the foul, I called a foul because as I was running, she had her arm out holding me back.
Right. So I did hear your call. It's coming to the observer. We are going to treat it like a contested foul because we were shielded from the play.
Okay,
So I was standing
so
behind you. It
it's a
happened right
contested
here.
foul.
It is a contested foul. We're good on 5, ladies. Coming in, stalling 5.
How
And on
great is
5.
it to have the observers mic'd up down there?
That last conversation between Kath Ratcliffe and Charlie Mercer, the latter of whom was a mid-season addition, trying out for Riot at the U.S. Open. Doing it all while having dengue fever, which she contracted while working in Thailand.
Not only that, she played for Scandal last year. Charlie Mercer, a member of the Scandal semifinal team a year ago. Moved out to Seattle, found a home in the club scene, but
Chasing love, moving out to Seattle. And now her nickname on the team is Dengue.
We're good, ladies?
because she had dengue fever after going to Thailand.
Probably not a fond memory of trying out for the team that way, but looking back on it, she told us about it, something she smiled with. Mercier, end zone, and a score for Washington, D.C. makes it 12-5.
You know, personnel changes are common in Ultimate. Players shift teams for a variety of reasons, and Mercier has been one of the most important decisions in the entire women's division, going from Capitals to Scandal, Toronto to D.C. Another goal as Ratcliffe feeds it in there.
Evan, I think that's a great comparison to talk about that cut Dogs of War game between Carleton and UCF, because it was that initial shock factor. And let's not forget that this game started with a Callahan. Allison Maddox for Washington, D.C. made it 1-0. Scandal on top of Seattle Riot to get things going. And the question was during that game in May and now here today, would the momentum stay? And so far it has been true.
Well, you also asked, is it possible to carry the momentum of a great game today, your greatest game, into the championship game on Sunday? And you know, at College Nationals, which was semifinal Sunday and championship Monday, Central Florida could not carry over that momentum. They had played their best game, and you know, that Pittsburgh team under Nick Kazmarek, led by Tyler DiGirolamo and Alex Thorne, were too strong. We saw DiGirolamo and Thorne in the men's division competing with double wide,
which somewhat surprisingly we won't see later on today.
No, they were knocked off in pool play by Boston Ironside in a tight game, and then another tight game against Johnny Bravo in the quarterfinals. Probably the most watched game of the entire weekend. The showcase field was packed. You know, throngs of people surrounding the field over at the FC Dallas Toyota Stadium soccer complex.
That's the only time I feel bad for being tall, because people tell me to sit down when I'm standing in front of them.
Well, you should stand behind the shorter people.
I do that in class photos, but those days are well behind me. Down 7 scores, Seattle with the disc here, second half. Winner moves on to the finals tomorrow afternoon, taking on either San Francisco or Austin. Here was Ambler coming back to get the disc, and it's D'd away. Careless pass. Now Beach streaking upfield on the turn.
Nice patience from Jenny Fay. Very experienced, knowledgeable player. That'll be too far in front from Payne.
Payne lofted it up line, and the reason Jenny Fay didn't get it, perhaps injury related, as she subs herself out. Perhaps a cramp.
Jenny Fay shaken up on the play. She'll step off the field.
And now they bring Jurgensen back in.
Sandy Jurgensen comes on for Scandal.
Disc with Seattle, and Gwen Ambler approaches to start the possession for Riot.
It looks like Faye's just stretching on the sideline, so hopefully it's nothing more than a minor cramp or tweak. She doesn't look like she's in too much pain.
Riot going deep, downfield connection for Katie Crayley. That ruling was in.
And a late call, but she was in the end zone. O'Malley again.
Second look, Crayley went down to get the hug. And O'Malley crossing, left foot did touchdown in the end zone.
Now, you talked about the Callahan that started the game. It wasn't just the Callahan. You know, Scandal pulled to start the game, got that defensive break, then went down and got another, and then went down and got another. It was 3-zip before Seattle got on the board, and it was like an early haymaker that caught Riot in the jaw. Seattle never has really gotten its balance ever since.
One thing you do have to give Riot credit for in this game is that if you watch their marks, you're down 6 scores, it's easy to become passive, but the marks have been very aggressive, very active. Hands and feet moving, shifting to try and get in front of each handler. Those marks have not tired at all.
Well, they're fighting as much as they can. The 2 men's semifinals coming up later, Seattle-Boston and Denver-San Francisco. That's Alex Gesquier. He'll take great interest in that San Francisco game. He coached Revolver last year. But he's now 3 points away from returning to the championship game again, but this time in the women's division. And how interesting would it be, Mike, if San Francisco Fury, which has jumped out to a lead, leading Texas Showdown 7-2 at the moment. San Francisco Fury, coached by Maddie Sang for the 8th year now. Matt Sang and Alex Gesquier coached together in Colombia, the USA World Games team this past summer, and led them to a gold medal. So the connections between those two teams are plentiful. And that was the final at the US Open back in Raleigh. Remember chatting with Matt Sang before that game, and you know, he's one of the most energetic guys you'll ever meet. What's it going to be like coaching against Dutchy Gesquier? It's going to be fun. And it was for him because they won the game 15-12.
An easy possession turns into a goal for Washington, D.C. Up ahead, Amy Hudson. Starts with Mercier.
You know, Riot running hard, but a step behind. Every one of those throws, a step or two behind. And that's been the story of the day.
Well, we talked about these men's games that we've got coming up. 2 more to follow and the semifinals. And there have been a lot of upsets in the first 2 days of play.
Well, perhaps the biggest story in the men's division was the disappointing play from GOAT, the team from Toronto that was the number 2 overall seed, won Northeast Regionals over Boston Ironside, over New York Pony, but was eliminated in the first round, didn't even make it to the quarterfinals. Revolver, the number 1 seed, coming in after winning the second leg of the Triple Crown Tour. Revolver trying to bookend the season with victories after winning in the US Open back in July.
And from getting to watch Toronto GOAT, whether you watched them or whether you heard about it secondhand, it was always that the play was sloppy. And with Riot here to start this game, a lot of turns, unforced turns, and that's hurt them here, trailing 13-6 on the verge of losing this game.
You know, in the week or two before Nationals began, talked to a lot of people in both the men's, women's, and mixed division, really. You know, who is the best team you played all year? What team do you fear the most? What team would you not want to meet in an elimination game? And it's crazy because the most common response that I got was GOAT. That's what the players and coaches who are playing thought of their incredible regular season. A lot of people considered GOAT the favorite even over Revolver, and to not even get to the quarterfinals was very bizarre.
Ambler with a back of the end zone flick, and it's knocked out of bounds.
Allison Maddox is making a name for herself today.
If it's been in the end zone, Maddox has been there.
The closing speed. And going up over the taller Elle Burstein.
Jorgensen trying to get there. It's just out of her reach.
One of the great things about Ultimate as a sport, that disc floated seemingly forever.
It didn't look like anybody was going to get there.
Obviously, gravity impacts the disc, but very different flight path than a basketball or a baseball or a football. That was just hovering, and both teams were close.
Crayley, Kawhi, O'Malley, back as handlers. There's Kawhi being force flicked, guarded by Beach.
Very active mark from Kimberly Beach. Even with the disparate score, still battling.
And Payne forces a turn. O'Malley was looking end zone. Wanted Elle Burstein.
There was contact, but no call. I think Burstein sort of realized that she didn't have a chance to make the play. So despite the contact, an uncatchable throw and good spirit.
Maddox taps it in. This is Jorgensen with cutters upfield. Now Jesse O'Connor. Across to Sarah Ito. Maddox again with the disc, around an active mark, goes to the back of the end zone, and Beach just misses her opportunity as that floated a little high. Beach with a good opportunity there to try and bring that in, back of the end zone. The 41-year-old fell just a little bit short. You get the sense both teams are getting a little bit fatigued here toward the end of this match.
Yeah, and the reality is, you know, Seattle's just running out of time, period, because while the soft cap won't impact the score, we're about 15 minutes away from the hard cap, so Seattle would need to go on one epic run.
Opie Payne gets it off the turn, back to Washington, D.C. This is Maddox, who might be our player of the game with the day that she's had here in semifinal action. Payne 2 yards out, back of the end zone. Very simple there to Sarah Ito, and it's 14-6.
It's becoming an inevitability right now, Mike. This Scandal team is going to eliminate Seattle Riot. Calm, collected offense. I mean, can you remember more than one or two mistakes that Scandal's made in this game?
It's very few.
Almost flawless.
Should Riot manage to tie the score at 14, we'll play to 16.
There have been a lot of overthrows, hucks gone long for Scandal. Not to say that they haven't made their fair share of mistakes, but when you put it in comparison with the miscues that Seattle Riot has had, it really looks like a minuscule outcome.
They're excited. Ito and Maddox have been such a big part of it, with Payne and Jurgensen and Fay. And a game point here defensively for Washington, D.C. Scandal.
Now look ahead a little bit. If that score holds true with the early big lead for Seattle's Fury on top of Austin's Showdown, that would set up Scandal Fury once again.
Yeah, San Francisco's Fury took half 8-3 over Austin Showdown. Four-person cup here with very little wind. 2 wings and 1 deep deep. Washington has thrown a lot of different defenses at Riot, and for the most part, Seattle has not reacted well to the changes in defense, both from point to point and within the point.
Along the sideline, a tip-to catch by Jillian Goodrow. Marked by Payne. Up line to Johnson. Seattle was able to break that early aggressive cut from Washington, D.C. Now trying to split the man-to-man defense. And that catch was in. It's a Seattle score. Shannon McDowell brings it home. It's 14-7, so Riot gets its score, but it's going to take something more than one possession for them to be able to force a comeback.
I'm a little curious what line Mike LaPresty and Alex Guestier are going to put on for this offensive point. Now, do you give some of your secondary players a chance to make some plays up by 7 points? Or do you put your top 7 on the line right here to try to close this out?
Well, if you're going to guess on what the O-line will be here, you just take a look at that last D possession there for Scandal, where they came out with a 4-person cup to get things going. Really seeming like they wanted to hammer the nail home and finish things off and get ready to look ahead to tomorrow.
Charlie Mercer to pull for Riot.
Well, Riot knows it's do or die. Beautiful blue sky day. See Kath Ratcliffe, Molly Roy, Alicia White, Alika Johnston. Neither Payne nor Jurgensen out there for this offensive point. Molly Roy, one of the captains of this Scandal team, though. Been playing Ultimate for a while, very clever. And just leads with her positivity.
Ratcliffe with the disc. Goes with a long backhand layout try, falls short. So a turn there as Unfried couldn't come up with it. They're going to send that back to Ratcliffe.
Looks like a foul was called on the throw. So Ratcliffe will get it back.
So Sabrina Fong on the mark. Foul called. And the disc will check back in here, staying with Washington, D.C.
Yeah, Fong, a talented player we haven't talked about. Part of the USA U23 team. And they call her Cody.
Unfried, crossfield, dumps it off for Alika Johnston. Field closing for the game on the sideline. And it's Washington, D.C. Scandal heading to the finals tomorrow afternoon.
This last point, a microcosm of how successful a day it's been for Washington, D.C. Not much margin for error on that throw. Tight, low to the ground, right near the sideline, but clearly in bounds. Great field awareness. And Molly Roy, the veteran captain, hauls in the winner to eliminate Seattle. And the team from the nation's capital is going to get a chance to win a championship, most likely against the 7-time defending champion San Francisco Fury. Now, Austin Showdown may have something to say about that, but San Francisco up by 5 at the half. You'd expect to see Fury and Scandal tomorrow.
So here's a look at what we've got on the women's side as Washington, D.C. picks up the 15-7 win here. On the other side, San Francisco, the #1 overall seed, taking half 8-3 over Austin, setting the stage for a potential rematch of the U.S. Open final, San Francisco and Washington. When we come back, a look at the highlights. We'll check in on the sidelines after a Washington, D.C. win. The USA Ultimate National Championships are presented by the Discraft Ultrastar 175 Sport Disc, the official championship disc of USA Ultimate since 1991. The Triple Crown Tour, Ultimate's highest level of competition. Everyone's invited. USA Ultimate, the national governing body for the sport of Ultimate in the United States. To find out more about the sport of Ultimate or where to play in your community, visit www.usaultimate.org. With a dominating win, Washington, D.C. Scandal moves on to the final tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern, here on ESPN3 and Watch ESPN. An impressive performance right from the get-go. Mike Cousins, Evan Lepler, and that was perhaps maybe one of the most dominant performances we've seen this weekend. We'll take a look at our Discraft Ultrastar play of the game, and it was the first score of the game. Allison Maddox setting the tone.
An unbelievable way to start. Callahans are very rare, but a floaty throw near the end zone, and Maddox capitalized, and the reaction said a lot. She was calm, and she was proud, and she knew there was still work to do, and they got that work done.
Down on the Washington, D.C. sidelines, we're now joined by Opie Payne. Opie, I know you got to be happy after that win. When we talked with Alex Gesquier, one of your coaches, he said that this weekend for you in any matchup like this, it was going to be a little bit of David versus Goliath. You were the Goliath today.
It feels like that way right now. Definitely going into the game, we were, we talked a lot about grit and talked a lot about staying disciplined. Obviously, we had a little bit of a slow start to the weekend, going down in the first game of the tournament, and throughout the whole thing, our goal has been to improve throughout the weekend. But even smaller than that, to improve throughout every game, and I think we're definitely on the up and up. So,
Octavia, you knew you could beat this Riot team. You beat them back in July, but you lost to them twice out in Davis at the Pro Flight finale. What in your mind was the big difference today, not just to beat them, but to win it 15-7?
I think the first time that we beat them, it was hunger for vengeance, honestly, and that kind of drove us. But as the season went through, we kind of matured as a team, really honed in on the things that we could control. And, obviously, the first game, the first score of the game was a Callahan, and that was a huge momentum gainer. But I think throughout even this game, the whole mentality was to really harness that energy and not get ahead of ourselves, really use that to keep us driving forward. So.
Is the offense really as simple sometimes as throw it deep to Sandy? Because it seems like out of the timeout, that was your play.
That certainly helps, but you can only do that so many times before the other team catches on. So, we exploited that as long as it worked, and then we also mixed it up. We have obviously we have a lot of talented cutters downfield, and we exploited what we could.
Octavia, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, thanks.
That's Octavia Payne of Washington, D.C. Scandal as they pick up the win. They are on to the finals for a rematch of the U.S. Open finals, perhaps. We don't want to speak too soon, but San Francisco did take half 8-3 over Austin. That's a great spot for Scandal to try and get revenge from July.
You know, Scandal has never been more confident than it is after this game, the best game they've played all season. The question is, can they carry it over and play 2 great games in back-to-back days? In the tall task tomorrow, knocking off the 7-time defending champs, if indeed it is San Francisco Fury.
Well, more great ultimate action coming your way here from Frisco, Texas. Tonight at 6:30, it'll be at Seattle Sockeye and Boston Ironside. One to look forward to for certain.
No question about it. Those two teams, great ultimate histories, great ultimate communities. Should be a heck of a game.
Well, we look forward to having you along then here in Frisco. For now, we say so long. So for Evan Lepler, I'm Mike Cousins, wishing you well from Frisco ISD Stadium in Frisco, Texas. Our final, Washington, D.C. 15, Seattle 7. To watch this entire game on replay, log on to watchespn.com or download the Watch ESPN app. Thanks for watching. This has been a presentation of ESPN.